Hello and welcome back to the Dynasty Football Fantasy Podcast. Here with me today is Craig Ant. We are giving Eric Long a little vacation before we jump into the season, so it's just going to be Craig and I for the couple episodes. Craig, what's going on?
Going well, going well. I'm glad we gave Eric the break. He needs it. I mean, if you listen to him last pod, he was just stress. He was stressing.
Yeah, it's really took a long episode, so we decided to send him off to Toronto for some little R&R. He'll be
Yeah.
back. So today's episode, we are going to dive right into our quarterback rankings. But first, we're going to touch on some news and notes around the league. Obviously, the biggest news coming out of this past few days is the major signings of both Tua Tagovailoa and Jordan Love, of course, with the Dolphins and Packers, respectively. Tua's deal, 4-year, $212 million with a $42 million signing bonus,
Uh-huh.
$67 million guaranteed. The deal shapes out, so Tua will have another chance at a big payday once he hits his age 30 season. And that made him the highest paid player in the league by AAV for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the Packers just jumped in, gave Jordan Love a 4-year, $220 million deal, $75 million signing bonus, but his guaranteed amount is slightly lower than Tua's, only $160 million. So I think after the Packers saw what Tua was getting guaranteed, and they had that deal on the table with Love, they made sure to push that over the finish line. Ties him with Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence as top paid quarterbacks overall in the league. Any thoughts on the deals?
Seems like a lot. I mean, they both have risks. Yeah, I think it makes sense that Green Bay was just waiting for Tua to sign. And as soon as he did, they're like, okay, we're good with this. You're not going to get anything better. And honestly, if I'm Love, I'm not too worried about 7 million guaranteed. You just got a payday for half season of work. So take it.
Yeah, I don't think Jordan Love is going to be hurting anytime over that 7 million. He's
No,
going to be
no.
the one set there. Do you have any? Do you think any of the either of these teams will regret the deal? Do you think it's not going to turn out well? Like, should Miami commit that much to Tua for the next 4 years?
I think they're in a tough spot. It's like what we saw for so many other teams when they have middling quarterbacks, where it's like if we let them walk, we're starting over. And I think with the roster they have, maybe they could get away with getting a rookie quarterback in there with their weapons. But I think they really want to do that. They should have gotten something this year.
Yeah,
And at
I
this
think
point now, you have to take advantage of Tyreek Hill while he's still running fast, and they still have Waddle there, and Mostert's going to be on his downswing too. Like you gotta kind of take advantage of the weapons you have now.
yeah, they are in this strange position where I mean they
Yeah,
lost a lot of pieces on defense, so I think they're going to take a step back this year overall as a team. But yeah, like you said, you still have Tyreek Hill there. You got to take advantage. Even though he said he was going to play out this contract and retire, and now the rumblings are kind of that he's more interested in continuing. So he might be there a little bit longer, but I mean, he's not going to be a Madden rating 99 forever with the way
no.
he plays the game.
And I mean, I don't know if you know this about Hill, but he likes to talk a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't believe anything he says. He really wants to retire after next year. No,
Yeah,
no
totally.
way. Yeah, no
Um,
way.
of course, you can't talk about any type of quarterback deals without bringing up Dak Prescott. Of course, we're going to be rumors if Tua didn't get extended in Miami of Dak looking towards the Dolphins as his next destination. I'm hearing today actually that CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys are close to a deal. So it looks like, and they've publicly said they're prioritizing CeeDee Lamb's deal. And I would expect them to move on to Micah Parsons before they even consider what they're going to give Dak. But with these kind of numbers and Dak having more regular season success than these two, is there any chance that if he does enter free agency or works out a deal with the Cowboys, that he is under $60 million a season?
Under 60 million. If he
Yeah,
hits free agency, I can see him hitting something ridiculous like that
yeah, I think.
because teams are desperate.
Yeah,
That's why that's why I can't believe. I mean, look how much unless Kirk Cousins is all of a sudden available, but he's going to be going downhill soon too, if not already after an Achilles injury. This is kind of why I'm surprised Miami spent maybe not so much the money, but the term on
mm,
4 years because you don't know. Like, I think the Dolphins are better off between the two with Dak Prescott.
I agree.
I think that's someone who would take advantage better of their weapons. But yeah, like he just Tua seems like that guy that's just good with pieces around him. Where I mean, playoffs alone, like not counting playoffs, Prescott shows he can win games in the regular season.
Yeah.
Where I think Tua just kind of gets the ball out there for playmakers instead of actually making the right reads. So that's where Miami could end up regretting it. And I absolutely think there's a team out there that's going to pay Dak Prescott stupid money if the Cowboys let him. And the way things are going with the Cowboys, with how much money they're going to be spending on, like you said, Parsons and Lamb, yeah, they're going to be. They need the cap to go up again.
Yeah, they do. All right, just some other quick hit notes from training camps. First week of training camps kind of were in full swing last week. We got AJ Dillon is in the best shape of his life.
Of course.
Oh, we are in best shape of the life season. I don't really believe he'll even make the roster, but
I say, where is he again?
he's still in Green Bay. They re-signed in Green Bay for
Okay.
pretty much no guaranteed money though, so they can just cut him if they want to promote that rookie to play behind Josh Jacobs. TJ Hawkinson reportedly well ahead of his recovery process. That's the other thing that you'll hear every training camp. Every injured player is well ahead. If they're not well ahead, they're not playing the season.
Not playing the season. It's one or the other.
Nick Chubb is
he did.
looking great. GM Andrew Barry came out this week saying that he doesn't expect him to be ready at the start of the season, but we're watching him squat 540 pounds. Beat reporters are saying that he is running full speed, cutting with no problem. So he looks remarkably like he's going to play this season after that awful injury.
Yeah. So I wonder if his past experience kind of helps with that, because this is not his first major knee injury that he's had to come back from. So I wonder if he just goes in there with the same knee, but he also did what he did with that surgery before. If it was as bad this time as it was last time, there's no reason for him to think that he can't do it again. And the fact that he's cutting already is good.
Yeah.
We always knew he was a beast and he could squat and push the pile, but the fact that he's actually been able to make cuts already is huge.
Yeah, that was the biggest takeaway when I read that report from the beat reporter. I should have referenced her, but I forget her name now. But that he's able to cut both ways on that knee already is really impressive. And I mean, there can't be any human left in that knee. This is all just medical science that is getting them there. So as long as that holds up, Nick Chubb could be like a late season push on your roster that really gets you over the finish line in the playoffs.
I'd drop him.
Yeah. But anyway, we're not here to talk about AJ Dillon or Nick Chubb. Today is all about the quarterbacks. So
wanted more AJ Dillon.
So if you want to read my rankings, I did a deep dive on all the positions. The only one that I haven't quite finished yet is the tight ends, but we broke down 36 quarterbacks, 85 wide receivers, 72-ish running backs. Tight ends, I'm kind of keep adding more names to the list, so we might get up into the 30s of tight ends. We're not going to deep dive everyone today because that will take about 6 hours. So we're just going to go through the tiers and give Craig a chance to just berate me for my terrible, terrible decisions. Starting off tier 1. I think this was the easiest tier to do. Last year, I had these 4 players split. This year, I think the 3-4 ranking moves up a bit and the 1-2 moves down, if that makes any sense. So they're all coming together, and I wouldn't be surprised if any of these 4 finish as number 1. So right now, 1, I've got Josh Allen, 2, Jalen Hurts. Obviously, the rushing ability of those 2, and Lamar Jackson at 3. The rushing ability has just been so consistent with all 3 of those players that you have to keep them up there. And I put Mahomes up in that tier. I like what they kind of did to open up that offense with the speed, and I think he's going to have a major season.
I mean, I hope so.
So unbiasedly, Craig, any thoughts on the top 4, or can we just pencil these guys in and move on?
Yeah, they're the top 4. The only thing is, like you said, and it's the reasons why they're all closer together is, I mean, at least for the top 3, I see there being, and you can go top 4. Just a couple question marks to start. Allen, we know he can run the ball and get rushing touchdowns. Buffalo keeps on trying to stop him from doing that. But then they went ahead and traded his top 2 receivers from last year are gone. So there's going to be the question of who's he going to pass the ball to more. or are they going to turn more running offense? So there's some questions there. Jalen Hurts relied a lot on, I refuse to say it. I'll just say the really good QB sneak. Um,
The brotherly shove?
yeah. The tush push. Uh, well, they lost the center. They lost their centerpiece for that.
Yeah.
Jason Kelsey being able to get down low and being that strong and push the pile really helped them out. Is it going to be as effective this year? You got a lot of rushing touchdowns through that. Lamar Jackson, again, same kind of thing. They just got Derrick Henry. He might take a few red zone rushing yards away from him or touchdowns away as well. Mahomes, for him, the big question mark is how quickly can they get off the ground running? Because it took them a long time last year. Presumably, you'll have more of a quicker start with Rice already knowing the offense, and Brown seems to be picking it up right now as well. But I mean, it's training camp. You never know what's going to happen in the regular season. There could be some growing pains there as well. So all four of them have question marks. That being said, they're all the top four.
Yeah. I considered for a while bumping Allen down because his rushing last season was actually an outlier. He had 15 touchdowns, where every other season, his first 6 seasons, he had 8, he had 9, he had 8, 6, and 7 touchdowns over the course of the whole season. So 15 feels like a big outlier that he just might not reach again. But then, like you said, all these guys I have question marks with, like Jalen Hurts, also got Saquon Barkley. Saquon
Yep.
Barkley's not going to get tackled at the 1 yard line like I had to watch Swift do all last year. So there's 6 touchdowns
Yeah.
that potentially go to Saquon instead of Hurts this year. And like Lamar Jackson, yes, he is the elite talent. He's going to give you a 1,000-yard rushing season. But Baltimore lost 3 starters on that offensive line. I don't think that offensive line is going to be great. So they're going to rely a lot on that RPO and a lot of handing off to Derrick Henry. And then Mahomes is there a lot because of what he can do on the ground, because even though he has the ability, he just doesn't do it often. But I just think that offense is going to open up enough that he can keep up with the rushing quarterbacks. So it's an interesting tier. I don't see any of them having a major drop off, but I'm not as keen this season as I am to go ahead and draft a quarterback in the top 3-4 rounds of the draft like I was the past couple seasons, because I think you can get really good value later on.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll move to tier 2. Only 3 players in the second tier. This tier is young and exciting. So we start with Anthony Richardson, number 5, CJ Stroud, number 6, Jordan Love, number 7. Obviously, Anthony Richardson is the one with the potential to just break your fantasy league if he stays healthy for 17 games, which is the biggest if. He can do it all on the ground, and he showed a lot more last season in his limited play with the passing. CJ Stroud, obviously 3 great weapons as soon as Tank Dell is back in Houston. Jordan Love, fresh off his new contract, is just surrounded by really, really good weapons. And both Stroud and Love are more athletic than their first seasons as starters led us to believe. They can scramble. So I'm curious to see if they will get that more involved this season. Any thoughts on those 3?
Breaking up a little bit there.
Oh, sorry. So do you have any thoughts on those 3 players? All right. So yeah, Stroud and Love could take another step with that athleticism. What kind of thoughts do you have on that tier of 3 players?
So my first thought is Anthony Richardson. That seems really high,
Yeah.
but like you said, I mean, you're yeah, that's your risk. If you wanted to take him, I think you should probably grab another quarterback later on, just in case. Because yeah, he did look really good in parts as really good, fantasy good at least. Kind of like Justin Fields for a while, just had some ridiculous games. But I mean, obviously, Bears weren't really going to be winning with him playing like that. Um, that's not to say the Colts can't, because like you said, he does seem to be better in the passing game early than we thought. But he's just got to learn how to get down. He's
Completely does. And
yeah,
it's that one game where he had over 18 fantasy points in 6 minutes of play that I can't get out of my head.
yeah,
That is insane. No other player has that potential. So I'm definitely going to be reaching for Richardson in a couple of my leagues this year.
Just because, I mean, if it happens, he's all of a sudden he could be top three.
Yeah. And like you said, in every one of those leagues, I am going to be heavy on the waiver wire or drafting with my last round another more reliable guy that's later on. A couple guys that we'll talk about in a few minutes there, but I will not be going in with just Anthony Richardson until we can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. CJ Stroud's going to have a monster year again.
Yeah.
I don't see how adding Diggs is going to hurt him. He should have Tank Dell back.
Mm-hmm.
And they came on real strong before Dell got injured. That was one of those things where beginning of the year, you're looking, it's like Nico Collins is the guy. Nico Collins is the guy. And then I can't remember, it was maybe like week 5 or 6. And all of a sudden he just kept on going over the top with Dell and he was having these monster games. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's just Stroud. Stroud will, if you cover Nico, he has no problem taking the top off with Dell. And that's the scary part about adding Diggs, someone who's savvy and can just make the one-on-one guy. Like it's kind of scary.
Yes.
Houston could be really good.
Stroud has a real obsession with Dell. Like every interview for the past 6 months, that's who he brings up. Like he was asking to make his like all-time receiver team, and he put Dell at the slot. Like,
yeah,
kid that played what 3/4 of a season. Like he loves him. Dell has a possibility of just coming out and being this team's #1 receiver.
monster. You can have a monster here.
Yeah.
And I agree with you about the athleticism because I remember the first time I noticed him and why I thought he should have been the #1 draft in the NFL in his draft year instead of going 2 was because I think it was against Michigan and I think Ohio State lost, but he played out of his mind. And it was just on the big stage and the rushing yards, the scrambling, the passing. I was like, all right, this guy's got it. Yeah. I've seen enough. One game, I've seen enough. Throw the rest of the tape.
Apparently it wasn't enough for the Panthers. Bryce Young, great choice.
Which, I mean, yeah. The Panthers are the Panthers.
All right, so yeah, Jordan Love, I think he settles in there. I like his weapons. So we'll just jump to the third.
Yeah, that's just a good young team that's coming up. Like that's
That's a team where I'm like between rounds 6 through 10, I'm finding a Packer in there that I'm like, I'm really having a hard time not clicking on.
Yeah.
I've done too many mock drafts so far where I look at my team after, I'm like, why do I have 4 Packers? And it might work out though. Tier 3, let's move on a little bit. We'll go tier 3, number 8. I put Dak Prescott. Number 9, we're getting our first rookie. Again, for obvious reasons, why he's up this high is Jaden Daniels and his athletic ability. And then Kyler Murray, he kind of finishes off the tier of guys who can do it both through the air and on the ground. He still has that scrambling ability. He's now another year removed from that major injury. There's kind of debates about whether the Cardinals were at all invested in Murray, and they kind of quelled those. They signed him a deal, and that offense is also up and coming. So tier 3, 8, 9, 10, Prescott, Daniels, Murray, thoughts?
Yeah, I have some. I think Dak is okay in that spot. Murray, I could see potentially throwing him into. See, he's a tough one because that's another guy that has some crazy rushing ability that we haven't really seen too much of because of injury or suspension the last couple of years there. I could see him jumping up in the same category as like kind of in the same mode as like Jordan Love, Richardson, that kind of tier in between there somewhere. I'm really curious to hear why you think Jaden Daniels should be the first one and on a tier of his own compared to the other rookie quarterbacks. So I remember the draft, the top 3. You were saying Jaden Daniels is going to be the worst of the 3.
Yes, as a professional football player.
So why is he ahead on the Washington Commanders versus Caleb Williams?
Because I have him getting well over 1,000 yards this season. Cliff Kingsbury is over there as his offensive coordinator, and Cliff Kingsbury was the offensive coordinator for Kyler Murray in his first season.
So you're going with rushing yards is the reason.
Rushing yards is the big factor. Yeah. I don't think that Daniels is going to excel as a passer. I think, 22 passing touchdowns in his first season would be like his absolute ceiling. But I think 1,200 rushing yards and another 10 rushing touchdowns absolutely is within his wheelhouse if he's healthy. And let's face it, fantasy football is kind of cheating towards rushing quarterbacks. It is so
Yeah.
skewed towards what they bring that Daniels has to jump ahead of Williams, in my opinion. And
All right.
The Washington offensive line isn't going to be that great. So Daniels is going to be scrambling constantly. He's going to get away from people and just collect yards. So yes, in real football, I would not have taken Daniels over Drake May or Caleb Williams. But in fantasy, where I can just do a 1 year flyer on a guy, he's another one that I'm kind of like, if I miss out on someone I like earlier, I'm going to take Daniels and a Jared Goff in the last 2 rounds and be like, all right, let's see what happens.
What's his weight? What's his size? I remember him like he's tall, but I feel like he's a little slight.
Yeah, you are correct.
And I'm a little worried about the rushing and durability. We saw what happened with Richardson, who was a much bigger guy.
He's 6'3", but only 184 pounds or 185 pounds.
Yeah, we'll see if he's learned how to get down.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
that could
the
be
biggest thing with him is like he refuses to not take the hit, which he's gonna
Yeah.
very quickly. He can't do at the NFL level.
no, and that's what I'm thinking. He could end up being potential in that tier, but I'd be surprised if he lasts the full season, to be honest.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and like I said, that's why
Yeah.
he's someone I want to pair with another quarterback. But as your
Yeah.
ninth quarterback, you're kind of at the end of your QB ones. If you're not playing any super flex or 2 QB leagues, it's kind of worth it to take a flyer on some guy that can jump up into the top 5 of quarterbacks because of what he can do on the ground. But yeah, you're definitely insulating him with some other option or reading the rest of it and tagging a few guys to keep an eye on in the waiver wire. So tier 4, like I said, we kind of moved on from the dual threat quarterbacks here. The last 2 tiers, tier 3, tier 4, I had such a hard time ranking because it actually hurt to put 2 of these players down this low. But I just, for fantasy purpose, I had to. So I have Joe Burrow at number 11, Justin Herbert at number 12, which are crazy.
Yeah.
They are just brilliant quarterbacks. Jared Goff comes in at 13. He is notoriously bad on the road and in outdoor games, which Detroit does not have on their schedule this year. I think they have a total of 3 outdoor games. One of them is in San Fran. So
Yeah, no problem.
weather is not going to be a factor.
He used to play nearby. I think he's fine.
So Goff can have a big year. Caleb Williams comes in as the second rookie. Just don't fully trust the Bears offensive line. And I don't know how much he's going to rush in his rookie season. Brock Purdy at 15, Tua 16, Trevor Lawrence 17, and Kirk Cousins wraps up tier 4.
Yeah, this is your bargain bin.
Yeah.
This is where if you wanted to stack up with a bunch of other skill players and miss out as soon as Kyler Murray goes off the board, you're kind of looking like, okay, time to get a quarterback. Because there's a lot of these guys they could be top 5. They have one of these guys is going to be top 5 by the end of the year. Don't know which one.
See, that's the thing. It's like every year,
right?
Half the NFL teams don't make the playoffs. Like it changes every year. That's the same thing with quarterbacks. One of these guys who are ranked between 11 and 15 are going to somehow jump up and be a top 5 quarterback. And guys like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and even Jared Goff this year absolutely have the potential to do that. However, I'm very concerned about Joe Burrow's wrist. I don't care what they're saying in training camp. When he is the only professional quarterback to have this wrist injury and he's reaching out to like offensive linemen to see how went with their rehab, offensive linemen don't use the same wrist muscles that Joe Burrow needs to use. I'm super concerned. And until I see him throw for 5-6 straight sessions, I'm going to continue to be concerned about that injury.
Yeah. I mean, it was the same thing last year, right? With his shin, I think it was.
Yeah, his shin, then hamstring, and
yeah,
basically his whole leg just kind of kicked him out of another training camp. He's just never healthy for training camp.
Yeah. Question for you. Do you happen to have the list of like the top 5 quarterbacks from last year in fantasy?
Yes, I do. Who are you trying to throw at me?
Actually, wait, I think I see what you're saying, what you're having now. Oh, because this is the total. Because I have a feeling that at a certain point, maybe halfway through the year, the senior knows now, and it says this was their ranking in February. I kind of I have a feeling that at one point, first half of the year, Tua was a top five quarterback. Jared Goff was a top five quarterback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they kind of fell off as the games got closer. So I don't know if that's an option for some people as well. If you wanted to grab a rookie and see how he does and grab one of these guys and ride them at the beginning of the year,
Well, yeah, I mean, of course,
like
that was a huge factor because they had that game where they put what 60 some points up on the Broncos in Miami. So Tua got
it's
jacked up then, but
ridiculous.
I
Yeah.
mean, he finished the league as the leading passer and was the QB 16 over the whole
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, which is crazy.
You're completely correct, but Miami's offense also kind of took a downturn as the weather got colder and as games got tighter. So that's kind of why I keep Tua that low. Yes, you
Mhm.
can pick him up and you can run him for the first part of the season while everyone's trying to figure out what the hell is Miami doing on that offense because they're so creative. They use so much motion. But when things really start to grind down, I don't trust Tua.
No, that's fair. That's kind of what I mean. Like it's just one of those like take a chance for the start of the year,
Yeah.
ride the hot streak, and then as soon as the fall comes, bail. Or end of fall. As soon as winter comes, end of fall, bail.
Yeah. Another one that I feel like we'll get some kickback on is Brock Purdy down at 15. He was a QB 6 overall last season. He has such a high completion to touchdown percentage. Like it's like a good like 2 percentage points more than the next guy. I just see that going down. And he's gonna be good. And he's gonna be the next one to get paid after Dak next season. But I just see him in the same category, like kind of regressing down to Tua, where he puts up some yards. He's a very capable quarterback, but just isn't putting up the amount of touchdowns as consistently as we want.
Yeah. But that's why this is the bargain bin area. Like
Yeah.
because this is where they're going to be going.
Hmm.
So you could end up getting a top quarterback in this late, or at least good enough for you. Like Jared Goff is like their Detroit's offense took off last year with them, and they're only going to get better as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely some value to be found late in this tier.
and Caleb Williams, like I again that I know you don't like the offensive line, but the other pieces are ridiculous around him.
Yes.
Like absolutely ridiculous. And they got playmakers. He doesn't necessarily need to hold onto the ball for too long. And if he does, we've seen his highlights. He can scramble.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's the only
he's
other
really
player
good.
that I've so say he's the only other player that I've seen clips of where that sidearm crossbody stuff that Mahomes does, like, oh, Williams can do that too.
Yeah, yeah. He's
Like he has that off form. It doesn't matter where he scrambles, he has the ability.
he doesn't he doesn't show the rushing
No,
that Daniels does, but his ability to extend plays when he feels pressure is what makes him a special quarterback. So you're completely right
yeah,
there. Even if the offensive line starts to collapse, he can just use his mobility to get away from the rushers and he'll still make the pass. I also I'm not in love with the offensive coordinator in Chicago. I don't think they're going to be super creative. And yeah, he's surrounded by amazing talent, but like Keenan Allen is the best route runner in the league. If Caleb Williams is always scrambling to extend plays, he's not hitting Keenan when he's expecting the ball to come in. So I don't know. I'm not totally sold on that marriage being fantastic this year. I think they'll be okay. I just don't think it's going to be great.
yeah. It's I want to see it. That's
Yeah.
all I think. Like I want to see it.
Yeah.
Because I'm also curious if he is going to do the crossbody stuff. Part of the reason why Mahomes can get away with that is he's got a ridiculous arm strength
Yeah.
and he's got ridiculous vision. It's one thing to be able to do that and actually throw across. It's completely other to actually find someone through all the traffic. And I don't know how much Caleb's going to be able to do that at NFL speed. So
Yeah.
I'm really curious. There's so many question marks, but I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Chicago is going to be must watch
Yeah.
ball for me this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap things up pretty shortly. We'll just run through real quick. Tier 5,
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson. Stafford and the Rams, he's obviously kind of slowing down, but they still sling the ball all over.
Yeah.
Poor touchdown totals last year, which concerned me. Baker was good for Baker, but don't know if he'll ever be more than a top 20 quarterback. Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers coming back off the injury, obviously, but a really good offense there that's rebuilt his offensive line. Deshaun Watson, I don't even like wasting my time talking about.
Fair enough.
So the end for all these sickos who are in real deep leagues, I got Will Levis at 23. I actually think he's pretty interesting. I know a lot of best ball drafters are taking him because you're not going to get consistent week by week stats, but if you just need him to win you a game, he can occasionally do that.
Yep.
He might challenge the 30 touchdown, 30 interceptions mark this year, but he's an interesting player.
These are the matchup oriented
Yeah,
quarterbacks
these are like
where I was just gonna say like where you have just a you're going up against one of the worst defenses. And it's just all right, well, I'm in a bye week trouble. Who am I gonna pick up? Who's playing Carolina this week?
yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. These are your bye weeks. Like, I know these guys are going to be available, so just see who's around. I mean, we obviously have to see who wins the quarterback battle in Vegas between Gardner and Aiden O'Connell, but I don't think that's going to be relevant. Bo Nix is not going to be the next Drew Brees. Just want to make that clear. Whoever wins in New England, Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, they're in trouble for this year. That offensive line is terrible. Although, like I will say, we'll talk about this when we break down the wide receivers. I really like the receiver room that New England built. Justin Fields finishes off my rankings at 36. He still has that scramble ability. If he does
Yep.
take a starting role, the Steelers might not win a lot of games, but I mean, keep an eye on him.
Yep.
All
No
right.
argument, sir.
Anything else you want to touch on? Any quarterbacks that are scratching an itch for you?
What's his name? The other Atlanta quarterback.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
they spent the top
Right.
10 pick. Like, come on. He's
Yeah.
got to have his own tier here, right?
Michael Penix did not
Penix. Yeah.
make
What?
my top 36 running or quarterbacks.
Unreal. Unreal.
So
Whatever. I'm done with this.
I guess I'll just retire. Um, can't do this anymore. I forgot.
I'd still
All
put
right.
him ahead of Bryce Young. I'm ripping on Carolina right now.
I don't know. I think Bryce Young throwing to Deontay Johnson is going to be very interesting. All right. So that wraps it up for this edition of the Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. Like I said at the start, I spend too much time doing these deep dives. So if you want to read my extensively long articles, just head over to dinespressbox.com.